Good morning. It is good to be here, and I always find it an honor when someone asks me to come and just kind of share. And really what I'm going to share with you are some truth from Scripture, but I'll be honest with you, it's really my life. And whenever I go somewhere for the first time, I like to introduce myself the same way, so if you'll bear with me. I'm Dr. Richard Marks. I have a PhD, counseling psychology, an MA, marriage and therapy, another MA, religious education, all from Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary. So I have a PhD, an MA, and another MA. I've got a BA, psychology. I have a LPC. I'm a clinical member of the AAMFT, ordained minister, REV, CIA, UFO, EI, EIO. I got a lot of letters behind my name. People think that's impressive, and I guess in some way academically it would be. However, really, to be open with you, the reason I do what I do is because I grew up in a broken home. I was a victim of abuse. My father's side of the family, the Marxes, I was born in Miami. The Marxes are Jewish, so you got this Jewish lineage over here. My mother's side of the family, the Sellers, their lineage are from Syria. They're Muslims. So if you want to know why I'm bizarre, two competing bloodlines, one body, I'm not sure who I want to win the wars over there. It gets a little more bizarre. When I was born in 1961, I was baptized Catholic. Figure that one out. My parents divorced when I was about 4. There were 3 children. There were 4, 3, 2, and 6 months. Kathy, Rick, Don, and Paul. Paul, the youngest. We were put in my father's custody. Back in the 60s, when there was a divorce, it was very rare for a father to get custody of the children. Always went to the mother. But in this case, because the Marxists had a lot of power and influence in Miami, they got it worked out to where my father got custody. And I've since learned that he was already having an affair with my stepmother. He married my stepmother sometime thereafter. I don't know the time frame. So I was raised by my dad and my stepmother. I was raised to hate my biological mother. I wasn't allowed to call her mom or mommy growing up. I had to call her Mrs. Como. My father had an anger problem that he got from his father. The sins of the fathers, doesn't say might visit, will visit the 3rd and 4th generation. And my father had those sins as well. I think I was 11 years old, and he bought a cow prod. He used to shock us. So I did not grow up in a healthy home. Now, from the outside, it looked like we were okay, but from the inside, there was a lot of damaged, wounded children because there were 2 damaged, unhealthy adults raising us. I love my dad. He's been dead 29 years. He died 2 weeks before I got married. My anniversary is actually tomorrow, 29 years of marriage. I married my wife. I left home when I was 18, got out of the craziness, joined the Navy. I got saved when I was 17, by the way. And I was raised a Unitarian. Figured that one out. Most of my raising was in Atlanta, in the Atlanta Unity Church, or the Unitarian Universalist Church. My father hated Baptists with a passion. 17 years old, I wanted to date a girl named Lisa. But to date her, I had to get her father's permission. First question he asked me is, are you a Christian? No one had ever asked me that question before. I told him I was because why wouldn't I be? I'm a nice guy. I'm an American. I don't drink and I don't cuss. I don't do drugs. What else would you be but a Christian? So for whatever reason, he allowed me to date her. But to date her, guess where I had to go? Church. I hadn't been to church in years. When I did go, I honored the Catholic Church because the only teaching I had about Christ was through the Catholic Church. But I was raised to hate my mother's side of the family. At age 11, my father said I didn't go visit her anymore, and I quit. I never bonded to my mom until I was 30 years old. I'm 51 now. For 21 years, I had a mother. I've had a mother emotionally. But prior to that, I never bonded to my dad, never bonded to my stepmother, or my biological mother, or my stepfather. Didn't realize I was in seminary working on my degree in counseling and just how broken I was. I learned something. If you're dysfunctional when you get saved, guess what you are afterwards? Just saved and dysfunctional. Or as I like to put it, Christianity is not immunity from your humanity. It doesn't make all your problems go away. You live in a real world. You live in a fallen world. We all have stuff, and stuff is just stuff. So what? Just work through it. What salvation does do, if I can use it this way, it enters you into a cosmic hospital so you can begin recovery when you're ready. And Father has made it clear that he will heal whoever wants to be healed because he is a God that heals. And so anyways, I joined the Navy, got stationed in Jacksonville, Florida, met my wife at First Baptist Church in Jacksonville. She's from a broken home, alcoholism, a lot of craziness. And so we found each other. You imagine what that was like early in the marriage. 2 wounded people finding each other. But 29 years later, I got 3 children. We homeschooled our kids all the way through. Excuse me. My oldest son just graduated with his 2 degrees and honors from University of North Florida. My daughter, Rhodes Scholar finalist. Yes, gets that from me, I'm sure. She's a Rhodes Scholar finalist at Florida State University, the only one from Florida. And my youngest son just went to FSU. And both my 2 youngest are in the Middle Eastern Studies program studying Arabic. My daughter's fluent in Arabic. They're embracing the Arab side of the family. I go, hey, what about our Jewish half? Anyways, so that's my family. But I can say this, after 29 years of marriage, with challenges, they have been the best 29 years of Luella's life. They really have. But they've been the best of mine as well. We've grown together. We've learned together. My father's taught me some things along the way. And what I want to share with you are some of the things he's taught me. Is that all right? Jesus taught in parables and told stories. And so what I'd like for you to do today is just kind of listen along with me and prepare our minds. I think I have our first slide. Let me see. They taught me how to use this thing here. There it is, right there. This is a lecture that I'm most known for around the country. Most people remember this lecture. I think you will too. In its simplicity, it's pretty profound. But if you do this one thing, your marriage will stand the test of time no matter what. Okay? Now, prepare our minds just for a minute to get into what I want to talk about. I just want you to begin to think about something. If you could have all the knowledge of the world, how much knowledge would you possess? And we'd all admit we know very little, right? Have you ever noticed that when you're in a conflict, though, you act like you know it all? But we're willing to admit objectively you know very little. And so in the realm of knowledge, there's this realm of knowledge of things that you know that you know. And there's things that you know that you know. Hopefully you know that you know what your age is, or you know that you know whether you're married or not, or you hope that you know you're here. There's a realm of knowledge of things that you know that you don't know. I know that I don't know quantum physics. I know that I don't want to know quantum physics. And when couples get into arguments, all you can argue from is what you know, because that's all your brain can operate from, because your brain can only operate from its level of knowledge. And yet, you've ever been in an argument, you're defending what you know, she's defending what she knows, you're going back and forth, and all of a sudden, she said something that you didn't know that you didn't know. Are you with me? Now, what's something you don't know that you don't know? You don't know. And for that person, he's going, huh? It works this way. Before you ever heard my name, or saw me, you did not know that you did not know me, right? Because you had knowledge of me. Now, when you've got knowledge of me, I'm someone you know that you don't know. After today, you may not want to know me, but that would be a different issue. See how it works? And so when you're arguing back and forth, you're defending what you know, they defend what you know, and she says something you didn't know. And the moment she said the thing you didn't know, it conflicted with what you knew that you knew. Are you with me so far? She said something you didn't know, that conflicted with what you knew that you knew. And when she said this thing you didn't know that conflicted with what you knew that you knew, you also knew that you were wrong. What do? You defend yourself anyways. Because it's not about being mature, it's about being right and winning. And I submit to you, you can win at the expense of us. And if that's what you choose, you cannot complain about what happens to us. Genesis 2:24 in the Torah says this: leave, cleave, become what? One flesh. What is one flesh? People have tried to define it. I've tried to define it. I've read people who have defined it or think they've defined it. And somehow it just didn't sit well with me. And then I started studying more and more in the New Testament, and both Paul and Jesus point out that the idea of one flesh is a mystery. So if it's really a mystery, you really can't define something that's mysterious. So I began to ask many years ago, Father, if I really can't define what it is in essence, the more important question to me would be this: how would I know it if I had it? I mean, if I had this thing called one flesh, how would I know it if I had it? And that began my pursuit. And so I am going to suggest something to you. Now, what I'm about to say today may be some things you didn't know. Are you with me so far? And I'm going to say some things you didn't know that's going to conflict with what you think you know that you know. Are you with me so far? And when I do, your brain's gonna get, excuse me, your brain's gonna get reactive and you're gonna write me off. So I'm gonna ask permission for something. If and when that happens, just hang with me and stay with me and consider the possibility. I still might be biblical. I just take you down a different path. Is that all right? And then if you still disagree with me, that's okay. We can agree to disagree and still be friends because that's actually possible. All right? Now, this couple right here, this is what all of you look like that are married when you were dating. Those of you who are dating, this is what you look like. You look like this on the outside and you felt like this on the inside. Y'all remember when you were dating? Man, I do. Just took Luella 2.5 years to date me because she said I wasn't what she wanted, which only goes to prove denial can last a long time. And so what happens is couples do a lot of things in order to keep this going. You look like this on the outside. You feel like this on the inside. There's a sense of connection, and you know the romance is there. And then you got married. You walk down an aisle. And then down the road of marriage, things begin to change. Reality settles in. You didn't realize that she had a U-Haul trailer full of baggage. And you didn't realize you had a 48-foot truck full of baggage. And now you're trying to get things like this, but somehow in marriage, just underneath the surface is a sense that everything's not well. Beneath the surface is a sense that this marriage isn't getting close. There's problems, there's conflict in it. Are you with me so far? Now, everybody wants to get back to the first picture, so you do what you know to do. And you keep doing what you know to do, but what you do doesn't work. You try harder. It's the idea that insanity is doing more of the same, expecting different results. And the more you try to get back to the first picture, you can't, and the more struggling you get. And this is why the divorce rate, even in the church, is no different than outside of the church. It really isn't. A lot of people like to say, well, they're not really Christians. I think that's a poor judgment of people's salvation. Maybe they are saved. Maybe they've never been discipled in the faith. Maybe they've never matured in the faith. But the reality is the divorce rate in the church is pretty poor. And so when you get here, you want to get back to the first picture. But sadly, what happens is this. Many couples don't get back to the first picture, and eventually the relationship's going to die. And when it dies, it's called what? Divorce. They throw it away. Because it says here, the biggest difference between marriages that fail and marriages that last is how partners deal with conflict. It is what predicts distress and divorce. It's how you handle conflict. 90% of the time, it's how you communicate and solve problems. And sadly, when couples get here, things don't look real well. But there is one positive about this. You see that dog? That dog makes it all the way through. You notice that? Now, real quick here, you know how it is. On Sunday morning, there's tension in the house. You know how it is. There's tension in the house, right? You try to get the kids ready. There's tension. There's no sense of connection in the relationship. And then you get in the car to drive to church. And you get in the car to drive to church, and when you get to church, when you get in the car to drive to church, all the tension joins you in the car. And then you get to church. And I don't know what it is, but when you get to church, you open the door, step out on the church parking pavement. There's like this radical transformation. So you go from this, hey, brother, it's good to see ya. Been praying for you all week. Love you. How's the family? And everybody's walking around. The marriage is awesome. It is wonderful. The family's happy. And then church is over. You go back to the car. You open up the car door. You take your feet off the pavement. Put them in the car. She says, where do you want to go to lunch? I don't care where you want to go to lunch. Uh-oh, all the tension's back. What made the difference? It's simple. It's the pavement at church. It transforms people's lives. It happens all the time. So if you want a happy marriage, go dig that up, take it home. No, what happens is people get here and they don't know what to do different. By the way, the next 3 weeks, I'm going to teach you what to do different. I'm going to teach you how to sustain the first picture, how to keep it us. But let me say this to you. If the Word of God is capable of speaking to someone who's actually physically dead and resurrects them, right? And if the Word of God can speak to someone who's spiritually dead and can resurrect them, then I'm just dumb enough to believe that the Word of God can speak to someone like that, and guess what it can do? Resurrect a dead relationship. Because the Word of God brings life to dead things. You don't have to throw it away. You with me? And that should bring joy to your heart. Because see, I grew up in a very dead relational home. I walked away wounded. And then I met my wife. And all I knew to do is what I knew to do, but what I did wasn't good enough. It wasn't what I knew, what I needed to know. Someone had to teach me what I needed to know, because I didn't know. And now, 29 years later, we do not have a perfect marriage, but we got a good marriage. We're connected. So I'm going to argue something here in a minute, and now we're going to get into my conversation about the power of us, all right? And now you got to listen fast, because I only get 30 minutes, and then they're going to drag me off here. Now, the most important part of your marriage is not the husband and it's not the wife. It's the third part of the marriage. Third part wins, you both win. Third part loses, you both will lose. What is the third part of the marriage? The third part of the marriage is us. It's not you, it's not her, it's us. When us wins, you both win. It's the idea of one flesh. Because when us wins, you both will win. Everything I'm telling you about, even lost people could do this, is how God made relationships. And if anybody does this one thing, you'll have a great relationship. Guaranteed. That's why atheists consistently report for 20 years better marital satisfaction than people who consider themselves evangelical born-again Christians. And let's be honest, intellectually, you don't have to be a Christian to have a great marriage. Because I know non-Christians have great marriages. But what it does take to have a great marriage is biblical. Are you with me? Anybody can do it, but it's all biblical. So then, if the most important part of the marriage is not the husband and the wife, it's the third part. What am I referring to? I'm not referring to God. So this is where it's going to get kind of, Pastor, get him off the stage. Hang with me. I'll put God back in the equation for a minute. It's us. Us wins, you both win. Us loses, you both lose. Now, what is us? Us is a synergy that exists between Luella and I. How do I know when there's us? It's really simple. You can feel it. Because when us exists in the relationship, you can feel the love, you can feel the connection, you can feel the bond, you can feel the attachment. Matter of fact, my kids know when us is in the house, they can feel its presence too. Everybody knows when us is around because you can feel it. You also know when us is not in the house. You can feel the tension, you can feel the angst, you can feel the distance, you can feel the conflict. My kids knew when us was not in the house, they could feel it too. That's why I tell people, you want 3 people in your bedroom every night, you, her, and us. Because when us is in the room, you like touching. When us is in the bedroom at night, you're connected. When us is not in the bedroom, it's like, get your feet off of me. You sleep back to back. Put pillows in between you. Why would people choose to live that way? There's no abundant life in that. But if I make us the most important part of my marriage, I will win. Because it takes 2 to make us and 1 to kill it. 2 to make it, 1 to kill it. I have to give to us, Luella has to give to us. But I don't give to us for the sake of her, I give to us for the sake of us. Because when I give to us, I'm giving to me. Did you get that? I give to her. And when us wins, we both win. But if you want us to stay in your home, you must practice one word: humility. Because God resists the proud, but gives grace to who? The humble. You must practice humility. Because the moment you move into pride, selfishness, unforgiveness, resentment, bitterness, what you're really saying is, I am more important than. I am more important than. And if you want to be more important than us, that's okay. But you cannot complain when us packs his bags and walks out of the house and you feel the difference. I'm not living that way. Father didn't die for me to live that kind of a life. He died so in that marriage there would be a strong sense of usness. Why? This is a whole nother lecture outside of today. It's because your marriage is the only relationship that humans enter into that images the Trinity. And when marriage breaks down, you break down the image of the Trinity to the world. Unity. Oneness. But when us thrives, man, I love it when us is in the house. I hate it when it's not. Quite a few years ago when I was really getting a hold of all of this for myself, Luella and I got into an argument. It was no us in the house. I was right, she was right, but I knew she was wrong. You know what I'm talking about. In 30 minutes of arguing, I'm trying to win, she's trying to win, and there's no us. And in frustration, I said, fine, do it your way. We'll talk about that the second week, when love has a tone to it. Anyways, so I go downstairs. I don't drink or drugs. When I'm frustrated, I play video games. So I'm down there playing video games 30 minutes. You can feel no us in the house. And Father says to me, you teach this stuff. Okay. So my goal was to go back upstairs and not be right, but to do what? Get us back. So I went back upstairs, found Luella, and I said, you can feel the lack of us in the house. She said, yep. And I said, you know why, right? Yep, because you think you're right. And I was like, I know I am. But my goal was not to be right at the expense of us. My goal was to get us back. And I said, how about we just agree to disagree? And she said, I agree. You know it was back in like 3 minutes? Us was back. Because I'd rather agree to disagree for the sake of us than try and win. Some things you're just not going to agree on. So what? Who cares? Not at the sake of us. I value us. I live for us. Now, your usness has its own way of doing and thinking. Example, I don't like malls. I don't go to malls. I stay out of malls. If you see me in a mall, it's because I had to go to the mall. Are you with me? I, Rick Marks, don't go to malls. Now, even though I don't like the mall, us likes the mall. It does. Us to go to the mall and stay for hours, but I would never do that. Because see, when us goes to the mall, we're walking, talking, holding hands, and dreaming. You with me? But I wouldn't do that myself. I've been wanting to do ballroom dancing lessons for years. Lord, like, no. Christmas, she gave me an us gift, ballroom dancing lessons. Man, that was not something she would do. That was an us gift. When I turned 40, I'm a big American history nut, especially Civil War history. When I was still on staff at First Baptist Church of Jacksonville years ago, when I turned 40, so it was 11 years ago, they gave me this as a gift. It was 3 nights and 4 days in a bed and breakfast in downtown Gettysburg. And for someone like me, that's like a paradise gift, right? But it's even better than that. They also gave me tickets to the grandstands because it was during Civil War Heritage Week when 1,000 reenactors show up for a whole week. And it's even better than that because they gave me tickets for 2. I mean, I got to sit out on the grandstands out there. I didn't have to stand back there with those people. I could be out in front. And tickets for 2. And us decided my brother Don went. Because us knew she had no business being there. 2007, I was offered a job, largest healthy marriage coalition in the country, senior management staff. Great job for me personally, great job for me professionally. It's in California, highly funded. I didn't go though. You wanna know why? It wasn't good for us. April 2011, I got a phone call, Governor Brownback's office, Kansas. Want to talk to you, got your name from different people. Okay, about what? Want you to come and start my Healthy Marriage Initiative and Father Initiative for the state of Kansas. It's like, that would never fly. I'd have to keep my mouth shut. So us prayed about it, and us agreed that if they offered, I had to go by myself because we had to get my youngest son out of his second year of college in Jacksonville, that Luella would not move for a year. And they offered it, and I went. And I lived there in a hotel in downtown Topeka doing that job. People would ask me, has your wife moved here yet? I'd say, nope. Wasn't that rough on your marriage? And I'd say this, no. They go, it'd be rough on mine. I said, not if us agreed to it. See, when us is behind it, there's agreement. Because it isn't about me, and it's not about her, it's about who? I love it when us is there. See, they asked the wrong question. They should ask this question. Are you lonely? Like crazy. But it wasn't hard on the marriage, because us was behind it. You see, if 2 become 1, and Father tells me that you can bet he's going to tell her. Because Father's not going to divide a unit. Are you with me? And I've never made a decision when us was not behind it. Never. Because Father doesn't divide a unit. I could have said, we're going to California, and she would have went in obedience. But it would have been very difficult on who? Because it wasn't good for us. I value us. You must value your usness. You must fight for it. But if you want us to win, you've got to make it your priority. And I submit to you, anybody can do that. Even you. When you quit thinking of yourself and start thinking of us. Now I need to put the Lord back into the equation. Genesis 6, verse 6, God lost his usness with his creation. Because in that moment in time in history, it says that God felt sorry that he made us. It says he felt sorry that he made us. And because he felt sorry that he made us, he decided to kill all of us. It grieved God. It grieved Rick in his heart that he married Luella, so he divorces her. It grieved God in his heart that he made his creation, that he married his bride. And he wanted to kill every one of us. So why didn't he kill us? Verse 8. But Noah found favor. God did not save Noah because Noah is righteous. Remember, Noah got drunk after 40 days on the high seas like any good sailor would. I'm a Navy vet. I understand that. The reality was God saved Noah because he understood if I do what I feel like doing, I lose. I'm not losing. So in spite of how I feel, I am going to make a decision to give to us in spite of you. And he placed favor on Noah, and he started giving to the relationship with his creation, his bride, if I can use that word for a minute there. He made a commitment to his bride. I will give to us with her regardless of what she does, because I'm not losing in this thing. And to me, those of us who bear the name of Christ, you have a higher motivation to fight for us. It's because your heavenly husband fights for us with you every single day. I was reading the book of Hosea. If you know the book of Hosea, excuse me, Hosea the prophet is told to go marry a prostitute. And it's preached as Israel and God, that relationship. But I read through the book of Hosea specifically through the prism of marriage, because that's what it was about. It was a man who was told to marry a woman. And I said to Father, I said, why would you want this man to marry a prostitute? And I get that personal revelation is not public doctrine, but here's what Father said to me. So you'll know, Rick, what it's like for me being married to you. It's my bride. And regardless of what you do, when you prostitute yourself, son, when you don't beg, when you do these things, as my bride, I will still fight for the relationship with you. And by the way, honey, that's how Father talks to me. By the way, son, I expect you to go do the same with your bride. Because I do it with you. Fight for it. To the world watching us. I was doing a marriage seminar at a church in St. Simon's a few years ago. A man from India was attending. And here's what he told me. When I was growing up, Rick, there were Western missionaries who lived all around us. He was Hindu. And he said they found it difficult to convert us because the village elders and our parents always taught us never become Christians. So I asked the most logical question. I said, well, that was because you are Hindus, right? He said, no. I said, why do they teach you not to become a Christian if you were Hindus? I never saw the answer coming. But I remember how it felt when he said it. Here's what he said to me. He said, we were taught if you ever become a Christian, you'll get divorced. Sit with that. And I said, how, it was like a puzzle. How did they know? Where did they learn that? And here's what he said. Easy. We just watch your missionaries. Third thing we need to know about your God. He said, what you fail to understand in West is this. You think what you do in your marriage and families have no bearing on the image of God. It has every bearing on who God is. Because there's a world watching you to see the God that you say you love played out in your home. Because that's the real test of our love, isn't it? That is where I am most challenged in my sinfulness and selfishness. I did not realize just how selfish Luella was until I got married to her. I realized just how selfish, grossly selfish I am and wounded I was until I submitted myself to healing and started allowing Father to love me and heal me. And then he said, now you go fight for your marriage and you fight for her and you love her. And the reason she's doing that right now in your life, son, is because the very thing she's doing to you, the very thing that Luella's doing to you right now, you do the same thing to me. And how do I treat you when you do the same thing to me? With patience, practice patience. Luella's in your life to develop my heart in you, son. There's kids watching. There's a world watching. That makes sense? Fight for your us, brothers and sisters.